Thank you. Amin, good morning. My spouse Harry regrets very deeply that he's prevented from being with us, and I am the substitute. I'm delivering these remarks for him. Please pretend that I am him, because there are times I will slip in as if they're my words. They are my words too, because I share the same values as my husband, Harry. The remarks I make represent Harry's views as Anishinaabe and a proud member of the Mississauga of the Credit First Nation. And I make them as a first-generation Canadian whose grandparents fought in the Dutch resistance in World War II. And I never thought I'd see the day where I said, I am glad my mother is dead. I am glad that my grandparents are dead, that they have not seen what has come to be in this country and what they fought so hard about and against. Anyways, enough of that. Pretend I'm Harry. Treaties were the first binding agreements that the Crown had with Indigenous people at the creation of this country. Canadians profess to honor and respect these treaties. Toronto has land acknowledgements and the medicine wheel in front of the City Hall, announcing its alliance with Indigenous people, and in particular with the Mississauga of the Credit, on whose treaty lands Toronto is situated. And indeed, it is on these treaty lands that there are 8 of all publicly funded universities, more than half of all publicly funded colleges, the 2 largest school boards in Canada, CUPE's headquarters, and our Chief Claire Salt, stands as an ally with the Jewish community and her brothers and sisters. Anyways, treaties of peace and friendship were entered into by settlers and Indigenous people that reflected the original relationship that was based on mutual respect, honor, equality, peaceful coexistence, the sharing of the land. And the treaties were grounded in the 7 sacred teachings of love, respect, courage, honesty, wisdom, humility, and truth. I believe that these values are values that are shared by everybody here and by most Canadians in this country. The 7 sacred teachings were given to us by the Creator to teach all of us how to live and move forward together in a good way. Quoting Chief Claire Salt of the Mississauga of the Credit, Anishinaabe are taught to pay attention to our treaty territory for issues that do not align with our values. The Creator gave us a voice and a warrior spirit when it comes to abuse and atrocity. We are paying attention, and we do not like what we are seeing. In 1910, Deputy Superintendent General, Department of Indian Affairs, Duncan Campbell Scott, responding to the appalling high death rate of Indigenous children in the Indian residential schools, stated, "This alone does not justify a change in the policy of the department, which is geared towards the final solution of our Indian problem." Throughout the treaty lands of the Mississauga of the Credit are signs and chants that include, "There is only one solution, Intifada revolution." The phrase Canada used in the 1910s and the Nazis in World War II has been cleverly, callously adapted. As Anishinaabe, and again, I'm speaking for Harry, I share his values, the term in all of its iterations is offensive, hateful, and racist. It takes us back to a dark chapter in our shared history, marked by the death of more than 6,000 Indigenous children. It reminds us of the tragic loss of more than 6 million Jews across Europe during and in the period leading up to the Holocaust. These calls for death of Jewish people are unequivocally anathema to the treaties of peace and friendship and the 7 sacred teachings. Now, the horror of Amsterdam and the violence of Montreal reveals that the falsity of assertions that Intifada revolution is a benign or peaceful call for change. It is not. We hear the words colonize, settler, and decolonizer to justify terror, violence, kidnapping, rape, targeted civilian assassin, massacre. These words are used to assert revolutionary violence by any means necessary, and that all forms of resistance are justified, and we are hearing them in this city and on the treaty lands of the Mississauga of the Credit. Harry and I unequivocally reject these assertions and any allyship with those who hold such views. Those values are abhorrent to the original treaties of peace and friendship. Assertions of allyship with Indigenous people were revealed as lies by the September 18th hijacking of the TDSB Grassy Narrows field trip by the anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian demonstrators. The gall to take the long-standing, tragic piece of Indigenous suffering and treat it as irrelevant, except to use it for someone else's dogma is evil beyond words. And to use youthful students, children, is criminal. For several hours, Toronto children were removed from the care of their parents and used once again to promote demagoguery, this time to advance the ideology of anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian demonstrators. And the parents were unable to stop it. What a shot across the bow. The first time we saw the abuse of children to promote vile ideology was Indigenous children were stolen from their parents and placed in Indian residential schools to remove them from the influence of the wigwam and to kill the Indian in the child. The last school was closed in 1996. Now, the treaties of peace and friendship are still in effect today. These treaties still govern relationships that all of us have with each other, and they apply equally to those masked thugs screaming and drumming hate on our streets. These people are treaty scofflaws. Now, if Harry were here, he would say, our land, the treaties, our values, hospitality are being abused. Leaders of the City of Toronto and law enforcement, all treaty partners, are allowing this to happen. And every one of us may not say it, but we notice that the mayor of Toronto is not here. And that is a disgrace.
If you could,
13 months since
you're closing in on
October
7
7th.
minutes, if you could.
13
Okay.
months since October 7th. And it seems that Toronto is searching for a legal basis to address the hate running rampant on streets and communities in Toronto. I'm a former Crown. The criminal code has only gotten fatter. But if you don't have or somehow are unaware of all the Canadian laws that are available to you to then enforce the treaties which recognize and are affirmed by the Canadian Constitution and of which you are a partner to. Smarten up before Toronto becomes Amsterdam. Smarten up before Toronto becomes Montreal. It's really simple. Do your job. Do your duty. Do what is right. Stop the hate that overwhelmingly targets our Jewish brothers and sisters. Enforce the law. Enforce the treaties. Miigwech.